Rain clung to the air like oil, dripping from the skeletal overhangs of Nyxoria's undercity. Neon burned through the haze violet, sickly green, electric blue casting shifting colors across faces both human and alien as the night market surged in restless motion. Vendors shouted in overlapping tongues, smoke hissed from cracked vents, and the stench of ozone mixed with spiced broth and grease. Ryan Blackwood adjusted his cuffs, though the immaculate cut of his suit did little to disguise the unease in his shoulders. His boots found slick purchase on cracked ferrocrete as he moved with deliberate confidence, the weight of a lifetime in military service still shaping every step. Beside him, Adria's presence glimmered like a beacon. Her pale blue skin caught the neon glow, her silvery hair falling in perfect, deliberate lines that belied the chaos around her. She wore her heritage as naturally as her breath, noble-blooded, daughter of House Thalari. Even here, among grime and smoke, her poise made space for itself. Ryan's hand tightened on hers. "You're certain we couldn't have taken the private shuttle?" His voice was deep, touched with dry humor. "You promised," Adria said, her accent curling around the words like a melody. "You would see my world as it is, not the sanitized spectacle for investors." Ryan gave a grunt that might have been agreement. The board would never believe their CEO prowled the depths of Nyxoria's undercity without a guard detail, but Ryan had learned long ago that being underestimated was often more useful than being obeyed. Adria's steps faltered. The grip of her hand went rigid. Her eyes locked on something ahead, down a narrow, rain-slick alley where the neon bled to shadow. Ryan followed her gaze. There, small, fragile, hunched against the crumbling wall of a derelict structure. A girl, pale blue skin dulled by dirt, her frame swallowed by torn cloth. Knees drawn to her chest, head lowered as if trying to disappear into herself. But when she looked up, when her eyes met theirs, Ryan felt the bottom drop out of his chest. Violet, deep, luminous, and filled with the same quiet fire that had once stared at him across a breakfast table, curled in a blanket, asking for one more story before sleep. Lima, their daughter, lost 3 years ago to a cruel genetic disorder no doctor could heal. Adria's breath caught, sharp and trembling. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice breaking against the name. "She looks just like our lost daughter." Ryan forced air into his lungs, but it came jagged, unsteady, impossible. He told himself the resemblance was coincidence, an echo of grief painted onto a stranger's face. Yet his feet moved forward, drawn by a pull older than logic. The girl shrank back, suspicion tightening her posture. She could not have been more than 7 or 8 by human reckoning, but her gaze was sharp, wary, too calculating for a child. Adria knelt slowly, her movements fluid, careful. Her voice softened into her native tongue. "Little one, are you alone? Where are your parents?" The child hesitated. "No parents," she murmured, voice nearly swallowed by the noise of the street. Ryan crouched beside Adria, pulling a nutrient bar from his pocket. Habit, a relic of leaner years when he'd carried food as often as ammunition. He extended it without words. The girl's eyes flicked to it, suspicion warring with hunger, before her hand darted out, faster than he expected, snatching it away. She devoured it in seconds, each bite feral with desperation. "What's your name?" Adria asked, her tone coaxing, gentle. The girl wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, then whispered, "Morala." Adria repeated it softly, as though tasting the sound. "Morala. I am Adria, and this is my husband, Ryan." Morala's gaze lifted to Ryan. "You're human. Last time I checked." He managed a small smile. "And you're observant." A flicker of pride touched her face before it vanished behind the armor of caution. She glanced past them, toward the market's pulse, then back, whispering sharply, "You should go." "It's not safe here." "For us?" Ryan asked quietly. Or for you. Her silence was answer enough. Adria looked to him, her violet eyes shimmering, filled with both terror and something else hope. Ryan read the plea in her face before she spoke. Would you come with us, Morala? Adria asked gently. Just for a meal. A safe place to sleep tonight. The girl's eyes narrowed. Why? Because no child should be alone in a place like this, Ryan said, the words rasping raw in his throat. I'm not a child, she snapped, defiance breaking through. Of course not, Ryan replied steadily. You're capable. But even capable people need help sometimes. A siren wailed somewhere deeper in the Undercity. Morala flinched hard, shoulders curling, eyes darting to the shadows. Something or someone hunted her. She hesitated, breathing fast, and gave a single, reluctant nod. Just for food, she whispered. Ryan exhaled slowly, grief and instinct warring in his chest. He rose, offering a hand she did not take. Adria reached instead, and after a heartbeat, Morala placed her small, trembling fingers in hers dot as they turned back toward the avenue. Neon dripping over their path, Ryan couldn't shake the thought that this was no coincidence. The girl's resemblance, the timing, the pull in his chest, it felt orchestrated dot, and somewhere above, silent and unseen, a sleek black drone tilted its lens, recording every step they took. The private elevator rose in silence, its polished walls catching fragments of neon from the city below. Ryan kept his stance loose but alert, every nerve alive with the awareness that the small figure at his wife's side was more than she seemed. Morala's eyes darted constantly, scanning her surroundings with the weariness of prey that had survived too many hunts. She clutched the edge of her tattered tunic like a lifeline, her thin shoulders stiff with tension. Adria crouched slightly to match the girl's height, speaking in gentle tones. Our residence is only temporary. We stay here when business calls us to Nexoria. You'll be safe. Morala repeated the word softly, testing it as if it were foreign to her tongue. Safe. Her voice carried doubt, and the weight of disbelief struck Ryan harder than he expected. He knew that tone. Soldiers had worn it. Survivors had clung to it. The doors slid open, revealing a penthouse that was part human minimalism, part Exorian elegance, softly curved walls of living stone, infused with faint luminescence. Clean lines of glass and steel that looked imported from Earth. A panoramic view of the city's upper levels spread beyond the window, all glitter and illusion, no hint of the filth they had left behind. Morala hesitated on the threshold, her bare feet rooted to the polished floor as if stepping forward might trigger a trap. Ryan spread his hands in what he hoped was disarming openness. It's just a room, Morala. No tricks. Adria touched her shoulder lightly. There's a sonic shower down that hall. Fresh clothes, too. No one will disturb you. For a moment, the girl looked ready to bolt. Then, with a defiant tilt of her chin, she crossed the space and vanished into the suite, the door hissing shut behind her. Ryan let out a long breath. She doesn't trust us. Would you? Adria's violet eyes shimmered with sadness. She's too young to wear eyes like that. Ryan moved to the wide windows, his reflection staring back at him in fractured neon hues. It's not just the eyes. It's the way she holds herself. Too careful, too ready to run. He paused, jaw tightening. I've seen prisoners of war look the same. Adria stepped close, her hand sliding into his. Ryan, when I saw her face, I thought I was losing my mind. She has Lima's expression. Not her color, not her features, but the intensity, the way she looks at the world. It's her. The grief they had buried for years surged between them, heavy and raw. Ryan turned, pulling her into his chest. Maybe we're projecting. Maybe it's just coincidence. Adria lifted her gaze, her voice trembling but firm. Even if it is, does it matter? She needs us. The words settled over him like armor. He kissed her forehead, finding strength in her conviction. Then we protect her. A sudden crash jolted them both. The sound came sharp and unmistakable from the guest suite. Ryan's instincts flared. He strode forward, overriding the privacy lock with a flick of his wrist. The door slid open. Morala stood in the center of the room, shards of a broken vase at her feet. But it wasn't the broken glass that froze Ryan's breath. It was the pieces that hung in the air around her, suspended in a slow, orbiting dance. Her violet eyes widened with terror as she realized they could see. The shards clattered to the floor as if gravity had reclaimed them all at once. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice cracking. "I didn't mean to," Ryan stared, his military mind struggling to calculate what he had just seen. Telekinesis. He had heard rumors of such. Abilities in classified reports. Whispered projects that skirted the line between science and atrocity. Adria dropped to her knees, hands held open in calm reassurance. "Morala, it's all right. You're not in trouble." The girl shook her head violently. "They'll come. They always come when I do this." Ryan felt a chill spread through his veins. "Who, Morala? Who comes?" But before she could answer, his secure comm unit blared an alert. He yanked it from his pocket, scanning the message. The blood drained from his face. "What is it?" Adria asked. Ryan's voice was low, grim. "There's been a breach at Next-Gen Laboratories. An experimental subject escaped during a transfer procedure. The description matches her." Morala backed away until her small body hit the wall. "You're going to send me back, aren't you?" Her eyes were wide, shimmering with unshed tears. "No," Adria said instantly, her voice cutting with steel. "We're not." Ryan looked from his wife to the trembling child, the comm's glow still painting his face. The world he had built, his company, his fragile stability, his marriage stitched back together by time, was crumbling beneath the weight of a single truth. This girl was not chance. She was part of something bigger, something darker. And now she was theirs to protect or lose. Ryan hadn't slept. By the time dawn broke across Nixoria's skyline, the city's upper towers glowing like blades against a copper sky, his mind had already churned through every contingency he knew. Morala slept fitfully in the guest suite, curled beneath a blanket far too large for her, though even in dreams her body twitched like it remembered chains. Adria had dozed briefly beside her, one hand resting protectively near the child's arm. But Ryan's thoughts had never stopped moving. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, adjusting the cuffs of his suit until they cut sharp lines against his wrists. He looked less like a husband, less like a father, and more like what the galaxy had learned to fear. Ryan Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Interstellar, former Federation scout, man who turned losses into empires. And now he was preparing to walk into a nest of vipers. "Ryan." Adria's voice was soft but clear as she approached, her robe flowing like liquid silver. She looked drawn, but her chin was high. "You mean to go to Next-Gen?" He turned to her. The alert was no accident. If she is who I think she is, then Ven knows. The Directorate knows. If we don't take the initiative, they'll come for her. Adria's violet eyes shimmered in the pale light. "And if you walk straight into their jaws?" "I've done worse," Ryan replied grimly. "And I still hold 40% of Next-Gen stock. Legally, Ven answers to me." Adria stepped closer, pressing her palm against his chest. "You are not just a businessman. You are my husband. Do not forget the difference." His hand covered hers, squeezing once. "That's why I'll come back. Stay here. Keep her safe." By the time Ryan's transport sliced through the traffic corridors toward the research district, his face had become a mask of calm authority. The sleek towers of Next-Gen Laboratories rose like monoliths above the district, their mirrored surfaces catching the morning light with sterile perfection. Security protocols bristled at every entrance: scanners, Drones, armored guards. But the moment his ID registered, every checkpoint melted into deference. "Mr. Blackwood," the lead guard stammered, bowing slightly. "We weren't informed. That was intentional," Ryan cut smoothly. "Take me to Dr. Venn." The corridors gleamed with antiseptic polish. A faint tang of ozone and chemicals hung in the recycled air. Ryan's eyes cataloged everything with a soldier's precision camera placements, guard rotations, blind corners. Every nerve hummed with restraint. Dr. Venn rose as Ryan entered his office. His pale blue Nixorian features schooled into what passed for a smile. "Mr. Blackwood, an unexpected pleasure." Ryan remained standing. "I received your message." Venn gestured at a chair. "Then you understand why we must resolve this matter discreetly." "The subject?" "Her name," Ryan snapped, "is Morala." Venn's smile faltered. "If you prefer. But you must appreciate, she represents years of work. Billions in investment. The telekinetic manifestation alone, achieved through torture," Ryan cut in, his voice cold as steel. "I saw the scars, Doctor. Don't pretend otherwise." For the first time, Venn's composure cracked. He spread his hands. The Nexorian Directorate authorized every procedure. "We are building the future. You, of all people, should understand the value of adaptation." Ryan leaned over the desk, his shadow cutting across Venn's features. "What you're building are weapons out of children." Venn hesitated, then tapped his console. A holographic display unfolded, streaming genetic sequences across the air. "Children, yes, but not born by chance. Created, engineered. We used material from many sources. Donated, harvested, repurposed." His gaze flicked upward, calculating. "Including, I believe, from you and your wife." The words landed like a physical blow. Ryan's throat constricted. "What did you say?" "The fertility treatments after your daughter's death," Venn continued, his tone clinical, detached. "House Stellari insisted on using our facilities. We salvaged viable embryos, reallocated them to the program." Ryan's vision tunneled. Morala's eyes, Lima's eyes, her defiance, her fire. Not coincidence, not projection. Flesh of their flesh, altered, stolen, reborn as property. "You son of a bitch," Ryan whispered. His cum chimed as his voice cut through the office like a blade. "Authorization, Blackwood? Protocol Alpha 97. Transfer all files to my secure server. Now." Venn's console chirped, obeying the override coded into Ryan's shareholder authority. The hologram began streaming into Ryan's device. "You can't do this." Venn protested, rising from his chair. "The Directorate will what?" Ryan snarled. "Go public that they've been breeding hybrids out of stolen embryos? Good luck." Venn's eyes flickered with a fanatic's gleam. "You don't understand. The potential is limitless. Soldiers with telekinetic abilities, regeneration, telepathic unity. You've seen it in her already." "What I've seen," Ryan said, pocketing the data chip as the transfer completed, "is my daughter. And I'll burn this empire to ash before I let you have her back." He turned for the door. Venn's voice followed him, sharp with desperation. "You can't run from this, Blackwood. She is more than a child. She is the prototype, the first of a generation that will change everything." Ryan paused only long enough to glance back, his expression carved from stone. "Then the first of that generation will know what it means to be loved, not owned." The door hissed shut behind him. When Ryan's transport lifted into Nexoria's sky, his cum pulsed with a message from Adria. Her voice was urgent, brittle. "Ryan, there are Directorate ships moving toward our building. Morala's awake. She says she can feel them coming." Ryan's grip tightened on the armrest. "I'm 15 minutes out. Evacuation protocol." "Get to the yacht. We're already moving," Adria said, but her voice wavered. "Ryan, she knows. She knows she's ours." The words ignited something fierce and primal in his chest. For the first time in years, Ryan Blackwood felt purpose sharper than steel. He had lost a daughter once. He would not lose her again. The hum of Ryan's transport was drowned out by the thunder of gunships circling the tower. As he neared the residential block, the sky above the penthouse lit with searing flashes, Directorate craft hovering like carrion birds. Security sirens screamed through the diplomatic quarter, drowning out the usual low murmur of air traffic lanes. "Adria." "Status," Ryan barked into his Comdot static answered. Then her voice cut through, taut but steady. "We're in the evacuation shaft. House guards are buying us time. Morala's with me." Ryan's pulse spiked. He rerouted the transport to the rear service access, the one he'd paid dearly to keep off official naps. The display filled with red as hostile sensors locked on. "Evasive pattern Delta," he ordered. The vehicle dove, cutting through lower lanes, weaving between lumbering haulers with dizzying precision. The docking ramp hadn't fully extended before he jumped, boots hitting ferrocrete with a jolt. Smoke grenades hissed around the dock, cloaking the air in choking gray. Shapes moved within it, Directorate soldiers in gleaming exo-armor, weapons humming with lethal charge. Ryan's sidearm was in his hand before the thought finished forming. The first soldier stumbled through the smoke, visor glinting, weapon raised. 2 quick shots clean, controlled, and he collapsed, stunned but alive. Ryan pressed forward, every muscle remembering the war years he thought he'd buried. The maintenance door loomed ahead, sealed from the inside. He pressed his palm to the scanner. Relief washed through him as the lock yielded with a sharp click. The door slid open to reveal Adiri, no longer the elegant noble of glittering galas, but a warrior in combat rig, pulse rifle steady in her hands. "Took you long enough," she said, her eyes fierce even as relief softened her tone. Traffic was hell. He pulled her into a swift, hard kiss before glancing past her. Morala crouched against the wall, her violet eyes wide, her small hands trembling. More footsteps pounded through the smoke outside. Ryan sealed the door and turned, adrenaline burning like fuel. "We move, now." The maintenance corridor stretched ahead, dimly lit, echoing with distant detonations. They ran, boots striking in rhythm. Ryan took the rear, his weapon barking in short bursts at shapes trying to close the distance. Energy bolts scorched the walls around them, the air crackling with heat. At the corridor's end, the dock opened into chaos. A squad of Directorate soldiers surged from a side passage, cutting them off from their yacht. Ryan pushed Adria and Morala behind a cargo crate, returning fire. Blue plasma hissed past his cheek, searing close enough to sting. "Pinned," he growled, checking his weapon's charge. And outnumbered. A small hand tugged his sleeve. Morala's voice shook, but her eyes burned with strange clarity. "I can help." Ryan started to shake his head, but she slipped past before he could stop her. She stepped into open ground, directly into the line of fire. The soldiers fired 6 bolts, screaming toward her. None landed. Translucent barriers shimmered into existence, wrapping Morala in a sphere of light. Energy crackled across it, like lightning striking glass. With a small, deliberate gesture, she turned the bolts back. The soldiers' weapons sparked, shorted, their armor systems collapsing in showers of sparks. One by one they dropped, unconscious. Silence fell across the dock. Smoke curled in lazy spirals. Morala swayed slightly, but did not fall. Her voice carried, quiet yet unyielding. "Run." Ryan and Adria didn't hesitate. He scooped her into his arms, and together they sprinted for the yacht. The ramp rose the instant they were aboard, engines screaming as Adria punched the launch sequence. The cum crackled alive. A deep, authoritative voice filled the cabin. "Blackwood, this is Commander Thalari. My security forces are engaging the Directorate at your location. Get my daughter and granddaughter to safety." Ryan froze, eyes snapping to Adria. Her fingers trembled over the controls, but her jaw was set. "Granddaughter," Ryan repeated, voice hard. Adria exhaled, never meeting his eyes. "I may have," emphasized that part of the truth. The yacht surged free of the dock, smoke and fire falling away behind them. Below, the silver-blue uniforms of House Thalari's elite clashed with Directorate black. Steel against steel, honor against ambition. Ryan secured Morala into a crash seat, his mind racing, chest heavy with a new and dangerous truth. She was no longer just the ghost of their daughter. She was family, and a weapon both sides would kill to claim. He slid into the co-pilot's chair, his hand brushing Adria's. Her grip tightened around his fingers. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The ancestral compound of House Thalari rose from a plateau, like a fortress, carved out of legend walls of living stone, veined with faint bioluminescence. Spires adorned with banners that snapped in Nixoria's high winds. Ryan had seen military fortifications across a dozen worlds, but this was different. Less a defense, more a statement of permanence, of dominance. As the yacht descended, escort craft bearing Thalari colors flanked them in precise formation, ensuring no Directorate pursuit could follow. Inside, silence clung to the halls like incense. The architecture curved with the grace of Nexorian design, every surface etched with flowing script that seemed to ripple under shifting light. Guards lined the corridors, armor polished to a mirrored sheen, their weapons cradled with reverence. Their eyes followed Ryan, measuring, judging, hostile, but none dared challenge him openly. Adria walked ahead, her chin high, her robe of travel-worn silk failing to diminish her presence. Morala stayed close at her side, small hand gripping the edge of her sleeve. Ryan brought up the rear, his stride steady, his gaze sharp. Every step deeper into the compound tightened the coil in his chest. The ancestral hall opened before them, vast and echoing. At its heart, a table hewn from a single slab of Nexorian heartwood dominated the chamber, its surface scarred by centuries of counsel and decree. At the far end stood Lord Thalari himself, taller than Ryan had expected, his features a sterner mirror of Adria's beauty. His eyes, cold violet edged with silver, fixed first on Ryan, then on the child. "So," Lord Thalari said, his voice carrying the weight of authority that had cowed senators and generals alike. "This is the one who has stirred my daughter to recklessness." Ryan bristled, but Adria stepped forward, her voice clear. "Father, this is Morala. She is not reckless impulse. She is our child." The Lord's gaze lingered on Morala. The girl met it without flinching, though Ryan saw the subtle tremor in her shoulders. "Our child," Thalari echoed softly, as if testing the words on his tongue. "Genetically, that much is evident. Stolen material repurposed by cowards. Yet stolen fruit still bears lineage." Ryan's jaw clenched. "She's not fruit. She's a person. Our daughter." The Lord's lips curved in something that might have been disdain or faint amusement. "You humans and your sentimentality. Yet bloodlines matter. And House Thalari has suffered decline in vitality for generations. This child may mend that fracture. She will be recognized." Adria's eyes hardened. "Recognized how?" "As heir?" Thalari said without hesitation. "Morala will carry the banner of our house. In return, she will have our full protection. The Directorate will not touch her while she is mine." The word struck Ryan like a blade. "Mine." He stepped forward, his voice low but edged with steel. "She is not yours to claim. She is ours. If you want her safe, then protect her as family, not as an asset." Thalari's gaze snapped to him, dangerous, appraising. Silence filled the hall, thick as storm air. Then Morala spoke, her small voice cutting through the tension. I don't want to be an heir. I just want to stay with them. The hall seemed to freeze. Even the guards shifted uncomfortably at the boldness. Thalari tilted his head, studying her with new intensity. Strong will, he murmured. Stronger than I expected. Adria knelt, drawing Morala into her arms. Father, if you want to prove yourself worthy of her trust, then see her as she is a child, not a weapon, not a title. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered across the old lord's face. He looked from his daughter to the human, who stood so unflinching at her side, then back to the child, who had spoken with defiance older than her years. Perhaps, he said slowly, there is more of Thalari blood in her than I thought. But Ryan saw it in his eyes. Calculation, not concession. Protection would come, yes, but at a price. The true bargain had only just begun. As they left the hall, Morala tugged at Ryan's sleeve. They're hurting, she whispered. Ryan crouched. Who is? The others, she said, her violet eyes wide and shimmering. The children like me. I can feel them. Her words sent a chill through him, sharper than any blade. Because he knew then that Morala wasn't the end of this nightmare. She was the beginning. Night settled heavily over the compound, but inside the ancestral chambers of House Thalari, the air pulsed with unease. Ryan leaned over the long table, blueprints of next-gen facilities projected in holographic relief, lines of data cascading beside them. The files he'd pulled at Ven's office were damning coordinates, security schematics, medical records. Hundreds of children cataloged like inventory. Adria stood opposite him, her arms crossed, every inch the noble daughter, though her eyes betrayed turmoil. This is not research, she said softly. It's butchery. Before Ryan could respond, a soft sound drew their attention. Morala had slipped into the chamber unnoticed, barefoot on stone floors. Her small hands curled into fists. They're calling, she whispered. I can hear them. Ryan's throat tightened. The other children? Morala nodded, her voice trembling but resolute. They're afraid. They're in pain. It's louder now, since we came here. Like 1,000 voices inside me, the hologram flickered as her presence neared. Ryan swore he saw the map shift, glowing nodes aligning with her words. He crouched beside her, lowering his voice as though reverence was required. Can you show us where they are? Morala's eyes unfocused, glowing faintly. Her hand lifted, and with trembling precision, she pointed at the hologram. Here, and here, and... Each point she touched lit up. Facility after facility, 12 in total, scattered across Nexoria's surface like scars. Lord Thalari entered then, robes trailing, flanked by guards. His gaze went immediately to the child, to the way the projection bent itself beneath her touch. Telepathic resonance, he breathed, his voice a mixture of awe and calculation, beyond even what our intelligence suggested. Ryan rose sharply, his stance protective. She's not leverage. She's telling us because she trusts us. Thalari's expression did not soften. Trust is a currency, Blackwood. One you will find easily spent. Father, Adria snapped, her voice carrying the authority she had long suppressed. Enough. If you wish to protect your legacy, then do so with honor, not with chains. She is my daughter and his. We decide her fate. Thalari's eyes narrowed, but he did not reply. He turned his attention back to the map, where Morala's trembling hand hovered over the final node. There are 23 here, she said quietly. I can feel them huddled together. They want to be free. Ryan exchanged a glance with Adria, and something unspoken passed between them. The grief of Lima's loss, the fire of this new bond, the impossible weight of responsibility. They had no choice. Ryan tapped his comm, his voice low but steady. "Blackwood to Captain Jackson." The channel crackled, and a weathered human face appeared, scarred by years of command. "Marcus Jackson, Ryan's former superior. When one of my best operatives calls in a marker, I listen. Though I'll admit, Blackwood, you've made quite the mess." Ryan allowed himself a grim smile. "This isn't a mess. It's a war crime. Children hybrids, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. The Directorate's turning them into weapons. We need extraction support." Jackson's jaw tightened as he reviewed the files streaming through. "Christ, you weren't exaggerating. Earth Command doesn't know?" "Not yet," Ryan said. "But if we wait, those kids don't make it out." Jackson leaned forward. "I can spin up a special tactics team. 6 hours under cover of joint training exercises. Unofficially, we'll be your hammer." His eyes softened slightly. "And the girl? The one in your report. She's really?" Ryan didn't hesitate. "She's ours." Jackson nodded once. "Then this isn't just an op. It's family. We'll take care of our own." The channel closed, leaving the chamber in silence save for the faint hum of the hologram. Ryan felt Adria's presence beside him, her fingers brushing his. He looked down at Morala, who swayed on her feet, exhaustion pulling at her small frame. "They're waiting for me," she whispered, eyes half-lidded. "But they're scared. We have to hurry." Ryan crouched, brushing a lock of silver-streaked hair from her face. "Then we'll hurry. I promise, Morala. We're bringing them home." Outside, Nexoria's winds howled against the stone. But inside, for the first time since Lima's death, Ryan felt something stir in his chest that was stronger than grief, fiercer than raged-out purpose that the war was coming. And this time, he wouldn't fight for profit or survival. He'd fight for children who had never been given a choice. The storm broke just before dawn. From the balcony of House Thalari's command center, Ryan watched as Directorate assault craft gathered on the horizon, sleek silhouettes backlit by the first light of morning. The air was sharp with static, the compound's defense cannons already humming with restrained energy. Inside, tactical displays filled with hostile markers. Adria stood at his side, armored in ceremonial steel that looked half ritual, half battlefield. Her father barked orders to house guards, but it was Adria who radiated authority. At her hip, Morala shifted restlessly, eyes glowing faintly violet. "They're not after the house," Ryan said grimly. "They want her." "They won't have her," Adria replied, steel in her voice. She reached down, brushing Morala's cheek. "You're safe here." But Morala shook her head. "No, I can feel them. The soldiers, they're hurting the others to make me come out." Ryan crouched, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Then you stay behind these walls. We'll hold them off." Her gaze met his, ancient in its intensity. "You don't understand. I am the wall." The first explosion rocked the outer defenses, shattering stained glass high in the chamber. Guards rushed to reinforce the perimeter. Ryan's instincts screamed time was running out. He turned to Adria. "We need Jackson's team, now." As if summoned, his tongue crackled. Captain Jackson's gruff voice came through. "Blackwood, we're wheels down. 6 shuttles, hitting multiple sites simultaneously. Tell your girl her trick with the implants is still holding. They can't shoot straight." Ryan looked to Morala. She closed her eyes, her lips moving in silent communion. The air around her shimmered with invisible force. "More than me now," she whispered. "All of us together." The courtyard doors burst open. Directorate troops stormed inside, weapons raised. Ryan's rifle barked, house guards surged, and for a moment chaos swallowed sound. But then Morala stepped forward. "Stop," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The soldiers froze, as though their strings had been cut. Energy bolts fizzled uselessly in their rifles. One by one, they collapsed, their neural implants overloaded by a wave of shared telepathic will. The ground shook again, this time not from assault, but from the sky. Ryan's cum blared. Target Omega is live. Orbital weapon disguised as a satellite. Countdown 20 minutes. Proxima 2 colony in the crosshairs. Ryan's blood ran cold. 2 million civilians. He turned to Morala. Can you reach it? Her face tightened. Not alone. But with the others, yes. She joined hands with Adria, then reached for Ryan's. For a moment he hesitated, the soldier in him wary of what he didn't understand, but then he took her small hand, gripping tight. A circle formed. Energy filled the hall, humming in the bones of every witness. The children she had never met, scattered across facilities, answered. Their minds braided into hers, into his, into Adria's. Above Nexoria, the false satellite flared like a dying star. Instruments screamed of impossible energy spikes. Then silence. On every display, the Directorate's weapon fractured into nothing. Disintegrating in orbit, Morala collapsed against Ryan, trembling but alive. We turned it back, she whispered. It can't hurt anyone again. For a long heartbeat, no one moved. Then cheers erupted, house guards roaring their defiance, even Lord Thalari's lips twitching in grudging pride. 3 months later, the world was unrecognizable. The Directorate's crimes had come to light, their leaders disgraced. House Thalari, burnished by its stand, forged a new coalition with Earth. In the gardens of their newly built sanctuary compound, 78 children played hybrids once destined to be weapons. Now laughing, learning, living. Ryan stood on a balcony, watching Morala guide a group through exercises, her violet eyes bright with joy. Adria slipped her arm through his, resting her head against his shoulder. The ambassador's papers came this morning, she murmured. Every one of them adopted. Ours, 78 sons and daughters. A family forged not by chance, but by choice. Ryan pressed a kiss to her temple, his voice low with awe. We lost one child, and somehow she brought us all the rest. Adria smiled through tears, eyes reflecting the play of the children below. She looks like our lost daughter, she whispered, repeating the words that had begun it all. Ryan tightened his arm around her. No, she is our daughter, and she's so much more. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the compound, Ryan understood with certainty that what had begun in a filthy alley with 7 simple words had changed not only their lives, but the future of 2 worlds.